Hi class, in this video I'm going to be talking about square roots, but more specifically the square roots of perfect squares. So the square root of a number is a value that when multiplied by itself gives the original number. So let's look at some examples here. Let's just pick the example of root 9. So the square root of 9 equals to 3. And it equals to 3 because for the square root of 9 to get the answer, you just have to think for the number 9. Is there a number that can be multiplied by itself to get 9? And in this case, there is 3 times 3, a number multiplied by itself to get 9. Hence, the result of the square root of 9 is just 3. It's simply the opposite of the perfect squares that we've done. So let's look at the square root of 16. For the square root of 16, is there a number that can be multiplied by itself to get 16? In this case, there is 4 times 4. Hence, the square root of 16 would just be equal to 4. So let's do some practice. Determine the square root of the following perfect squares. So the square root of 9. Okay, well, 9's already up here. A number that can be multiplied by itself to get 9 is 3 times 3. Hence, the square root of 9 would just be 3. The square root of 25. Is there a number that can be multiplied by itself to get to 25? In this case, there is, right? 5 times 5 gets 25. Hence, the square root of 25 is just going to be 5. What about the square root of 36? Are there two numbers that can multiply by itself to get to 36? In this case, there is. 6 times 6 gets me 36. Hence, the square root of 36 is just going to be 6. Notice how if you know your perfect squares really well, you should be able to figure out the square root of pretty much these perfect squares. So the square root of 64, what two numbers can multiply by itself to get to 64? Well, how about 8 times 8? That gets me 64. Hence, the square root of 64 would just be 8. Hopefully you're noticing a pattern. The square root of 81. What two numbers can multiply by itself to get to 81? 9 times 9. So, hence, the square root of 81 would just be 9. For the square root of 100, what two numbers can multiply by itself to get to 100? 10 times 10. Hence, the square root of 100 is just going to be 10. What about the square root of 49? Are there two numbers that can multiply by itself to get to 49? How about 7 times 7? So the square root of 49 is just going to be 7. The square root of 1. What two numbers can multiply by itself to get 1? How about 1 times 1? Hence the square root of 1 is just going to be 1. The square root of 21. What two numbers can multiply by itself to get to 121? How about 11 times 11? That gets me 121. Hence the square root of 121 is just going to be 11. So as we scroll down, here are a list of our perfect squares again. And here are a list of our square roots. Do you notice a pattern? Pretty much, if you know your perfect squares, for example, 49 is a perfect square as a result from 7 times 7. The square root of 49 is just pretty much what two numbers can multiply by itself to get to 49, which is 7. So if you know the perfect squares, you should know how to take the square root of the perfect square.